All right, welcome back, everyone. Season 3, Beneath the Helmet. So excited to have another awesome guest on the air today. Today, I got the podcast host of the Chief Exchange, also a newly 4-time author, which is pretty awesome. We're going to dig into his newest book coming out. And he's also part of the Ready Rebound organization, which he's going to also tell us a little bit about that.
It's time to ignite your soul and unlock your full potential. Join us on Beneath the Helmet, the podcast exploring firefighters' health and wellness. Hosted by retired Fire Chief Arjuna George, our podcast is the perfect place to start your journey towards becoming the best version of yourself. So come on, let's join the conversation and find out what sets your soul on fire.
Today, we got Alec Wons joining us today, podcaster, author, fire service advocate, and here to join us and share some wisdom. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So tell our listener today a little bit about who Alec is and what's your background and what brought you to being of service to the fire service or other agencies. There's police, there's paramedics, military.
Yeah, I work with everybody, fire, police, public works, anyone in the municipality. I graduated from Marquette University about 3 years ago, originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I came up to Milwaukee and Marquette to play college soccer there, where I majored in exercise physiology. So after graduating school, I was working down in Phoenix, Arizona with professional NFL athletes in the combine and off season. And during my time at Marquette, I was building an online mental health startup for student athletes. And I'd gotten connected with a CEO from Silicon Valley. Just didn't think much of it. Cool relationship built, mentor that I kind of started following there. And during that time I was coaching, he actually became the CEO of Ready Rebound. So our founder was like Luis Rivera, and he built this thing by himself for a long time and had someone come operate. And David had called me one day and explained the mission and my background with the passion I have for physical and mental health. He thought could be a good fit here, and been here for almost 2 years now and have loved every single second of it. After my first year, I started the Chief Exchange podcast. I just got really frustrated with seeing what the news was showing about public safety, especially on the law enforcement side, where you take a chief's interview of 20 minutes and you only show the 20 seconds that you want someone to see. So it's not necessarily in the favor of public safety, but what the news channel wants to be able to be portrayed. It really bothered me, and I kind of wanted to be able to try and help my piece of little change to help show others how fulfilling a career in public safety can be. I wanted to be a student of the game since I did not come from a background in public safety, nor did anyone in my family. So just really wanted to throw myself full in, and what better way to learn than talking with some of the world's best public safety leaders, hearing their stories, and then just sharing for others to learn from and benefit from.
Awesome. So let's start off with your books. So how did you get into writing? What kind of sparked that love for writing? And now you're on your 4th book. Maybe where did that all start?
It's funny. I hated writing in high school and college. Like, I absolutely despised it. And it's one of those things, I don't know, I was going through like a life change where after graduating college, like you're really close with your teammates all this time. Everyone goes their separate ways. Was ending a relationship at that point in time, was in the career that I wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So a lot of just life changes hit at once. And for me, I just started off journaling, just kind of getting my thoughts out of my head onto paper, and just started writing more and more. And kind of a thing for me at that point was still kind of finding who am I, who is Alec. And the first book I wrote was called Conquer Yourself, just realizing that you are the only person in your way of where you want to go in life. How your worst enemy is almost the one between your ears. And it was very therapeutic to write. And as I started talking to other people that I would write about, a lot of people resonated. So that's why I ended up writing the book Conquer Yourself, which is kind of, if I had to put in a genre, more like self-growth, personal development, really just looking at the person in the mirror and how do you beat that person every day to be able to get to the version that you somehow want to be. Like if you're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and self-actualization, getting to the top of the pyramid, realizing that there is no top, and it's just how do you be a lifelong learner? How do you just be the best version of yourself every day? And just kind of going from there.
So taking all that wisdom from that book, what's changed in your life since writing that?
I just feel so comfortable being me. As long as I'm not doing anything that's disrespecting anybody or hurting anybody, I just feel so comfortable being unapologetically myself. And it's so funny. I always used to feel like I had to fit into groups of people and maybe would go out with friends or go do certain activities that I would do just to be around people, not necessarily because I like them. And it helps me kind of go through this phase of going from that, trying to fit into groups, to being alone for a while, figure yourself out. And then all of a sudden, when you embrace who you are and just follow your passion and what you love, it starts almost like a magnet that the right people were attracted to you in your life. It's kind of like a three-stage thing going there.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I think we talked offline about doesn't age doesn't come into a factor with a lot of things, and that's something you're kind of promoting as well. And that when you said that, that really resonated with me because I wrote an article about it, but I also felt it for most of my career that I was too young to be a fire chief. I felt I did not belong. There's a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of feelings of why me? I'm 28 years old. I'm 30 years old. I'm looking at a sea of, 50, 60-year-olds. I didn't feel like I belonged there. And so I can resonate with how you're describing that. So how does that portray in your life? Does that pop up in your life, or maybe when you're interviewing people, does that pop up as well as a challenge?
I think it has for me whenever I've started something new. And I used to beat myself up a lot, but then I would just realize I'm starting something new. I'm kind of supposed to suck at it a little bit.
Yeah.
And the only reason to suck less is just to keep practicing. I'm just a big advocate of practicing experience. How do I learn from other people's life lessons and mistakes? Because it's far for me, it's just almost like I equate a lot of stuff back to working out, since that's what my background was in as a strength coach. Is just time under the bar, just constantly doing the same things each day, or constantly doing small actions each day, like the book Atomic Habits, add up to large results over time. So I'm like, age has never been a thing for me, that it's like, oh, if I'm 30 or 40, then I'll feel ready. It's no, how do I just get the experience under my belt? How do I learn as much as possible? Because I found I'm the most nervous or anxious when I'm not as prepared. So I just do everything I can to be as prepared as I can, whether it's going into an interview just for like a podcast, or making sure I have my grocery list going to the grocery store.
Yep, I hear you. Over prepare. Yeah, it's always
Mhm.
it's always a good way to live for sure. So kind of rewind it a little bit back to your days working with sports teams. Anything that you've seen over the last number of years working in this industry now that you've kind of like, this is very similar to the sports industry, and how can we maybe gather more of what's working well in the sports industry in public safety?
Yeah, I think one of the things, just because I live it every day, is at Ready Rebound, the whole thing is, how do you treat injured first responders like professional athletes? I mean, we see it all the time in college and pro sports. We saw it when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. You can get an MRI same day, next day. You're getting surgery 2 to 3 days later. Rather, what we're seeing in public safety is sometimes it's taking weeks and months to get an MRI, or we're 3 months down the line before you figure out you need surgery. You've done PT all this time, but during that time is your physical, your mental health is suffering being out. Maybe you can't work your second job. It's affecting the minimum staffing and the overtime of the departments, having negative effects on your family. It's just nothing that's good. So the biggest thing I've seen, and obviously there's a bunch more things, but I'm just really passionate about, especially with my background in athletics, is how do you treat first responders like professional athletes when they're injured, and give them the care that they deserve? So we're literally just taking anything from the injury recovery side, like how we help get them in same day, next day, get them back to work as quickly as possible. But we also see it on the front end with, if I'm eating right, if I'm sleeping well. And the sleeping one's an interesting one in the fire service, because sometimes you can't always control that. But taking care of my body, fueling it properly, helps reduce the risk of injury, helps me combat fatigue. Staying fit before helps reduce the risk of injury, because the best injuries will never happen in the first place. I'm sure there's a couple others. That's just been my world for a lot of my life, and just goes back to the being prepared thing.
Love it. Love it. So I know you're very passionate about consistency, systems, discipline. Love to hear some of your strategies you have in place for your own personal life on how you are consistent, how you're able to, at the age you are, to do all the things you've done, write 4 books, podcast, work, have a life outside of everything. So yeah, share a little bit about dive into Alex kind of background of that.
I've been very fortunate that I love the work that I do and the people who I meet through that. So a lot of the time the line is kind of blurred for me of, am I actually working right now or am I living I think it's a good combination. I think that's when you've really found what you like to do is just how can I be of service to others? And through that, I build some amazing friends and relationships that stretch outside of the constraints of business, which has been so fun. But some of you might think I'm a little bit of a wacko when I say some of the things I do is it's pretty regimented, but I also build in time to have flexibility. But anything from going to bed is sometimes like 9:30, 10, waking up at 4, getting a workout in the first thing, and listening to a podcast, getting some form of learning in after that before showering and going off to work for the day, which will probably be about anywhere from 7 to 8, 9, 10 at night sometimes, especially when you do the full day and then you record the podcast and edit stuff. Um, on Saturdays or Sundays, I do all my meal prep for the week. So all breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, it's all in the fridge. I can grab out of the container, pretty much plug and play. So I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat. I'm not tempted to go buy something else and spend money. And it's just super easy grab and go. And I just do it all in one sitting. I'm not the biggest fan of dishes, so I'd rather just do all the dishes at one point during the week and then not have to worry about the rest of the week. And then the workout, I plan my stuff months out in advance. So it's the same thing. When I go to the gym, I know what I'm going to do. When I go to meetings, I know what I'm going to do. I have my agenda and I've done the prep before. So I think it just boils down to what we kind of talked about before. It's just preparation. I'd always rather over prepare, be early, rather than show up unprepared, not bring my best self, waste someone else's time. I think it's disrespectful to especially other people in your life, and kind of slothful. So how do you just make everything as simple and efficient as possible?
How do you track progress, goals, habits? How do you track those? Do you have a method that you want to share?
I have anything from strength training, like an Excel sheet I have, you just kind of put in what the weights you do for that week and you're able to track whether you're going up or down. Um, it's funny because I've done this stuff a lot now that it's kind of just second nature. Um, my biggest thing is just how do I make sure I'm doing something each day, knowing that the the small deposits I put each day add up to large change over time. I actually have a tattoo on my forearm. It's an oak tree with a little acorn at the bottom. And it's just a constant reminder that everything big once started off is something small. And a really great reminder that I look at it and just reminds me to be a little more patient with yourself, things going around, that all good things come over time and not overnight. So I still constantly work at that, but I know that just like with plants or stuff, you give them a little bit of water each day, you give them some sunlight, and just day after day after day, it grows. So I used to get discouraged when stuff wouldn't happen maybe as quickly as you wanted, and now I'm just much more of a fan of doing things for the long term and doing things that are sustainable.
Awesome. So going back to the meal planning, that's always a struggle for a lot of people is eating healthy for one, not going for fast food. Oh, I'm too busy. I got a meeting late. I'm working double shift, whatever it looks like. I'm just going to head to the restaurant and grab a quick burger.
Mm-hmm.
So what's kind of some of your go-tos that you want to share with the audience listening today that would be maybe helpful for them to start that habit and that healthy habit?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same stuff too. And just keep this in mind. I'm a single guy. I have no kids or anything. So it's not like I'm cooking to please other people either. But the breakfast is like overnight oats. So I put protein powder in there. Um, I'm about 180, 185 pounds. So I try and get 180, 185 grams of protein in each day. So lunch is typically like a pound of ground turkey and some vegetables, sometimes quinoa, snacks or protein bars. Dinner is a chicken breast with like sweet potatoes and like broccoli or some other kind of vegetable. And for like a sweet tooth, sometimes there's they're like a protein shake, or I love cereal. So sometimes even like mini wheats or something. Like I'm not always perfect. I'm a big fan of the 80-20. Like sometimes you got to let yourself live sometimes, but a lot of the time it's just switching up some of the sauces for the different meats or stuff you do. Um, a fun thing to make is like stuffed peppers too. Those are good.
Yeah, nice. I like it.
Those are a few of the same things and make the same things each week. Sometimes to switch up the sauce, but whether it's barbecue, teriyaki, or other stuff like that.
Well, it helps with that whole decision fatigue that we face in a lot of our lives, right? Is like, what am I going to wear today? What am I going to eat today? You know, all those things take energy every time we are trying to think about each one of those, right? So yeah.
Well, it is. And when you can save that brain power for other bigger decisions you make during your day, you don't feel fatigued by the smaller stuff, like you exactly said perfectly.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. So flipping to your podcast now, how did that come to fruition? What was the birth child of that?
Yeah, I was at Ready Rebound. I think it was about 9 months in. So I'd started April of 23, and it was around December. Um, this is kind of sound like a caveat. New Year's resolutions to me are always interesting because I'm like, what changes between December 31st and January 1st? Why can I not make that change on October 11th to October 12th? So I always try to just act when I see something needs to be changed, just change it. But going into new year, sometimes it is like a little reset of like, like what do I want my word of the year to be? What do I want this year to kind of look like in a way? And my word of the year for 2024 was the word simplify. Because I've always been the person to really overflow my plate. When I was working at Ready Rebound, I was still doing strength coaching. I was writing. I was going all these different directions, but never really progressing too far in either. It was kind of always going a mile wide, like an inch deep, rather than an inch deep, or yeah, a mile wide, an inch deep. No, I'm saying it wrong, but you know what I mean. Is I was always doing too many things to be able to focus truly on one thing. So simplify was, I love the work with first responders. So I was like, how can I be able to add to this work and contribute more to public safety as a whole, rather than being a bystander to some problems that I wasn't really liking seeing in the news, which is why I wanted to start the podcast at that point in time, is how do I help chiefs share their story? Because when I was working with these men and women each day, I was like, these are the most down-to-earth people you would ever meet. And that's not what you see on the TV shows or in the movies or on the news. And it's not an accurate depiction either. So I don't want people to get discouraged who are thinking about a career in public safety to think that's what it's like when it's not that correct depiction at all. So I really wanted to do my piece to try and help shed a light on how fulfilling a career in public safety can be. A lot of the chiefs I talk with could be CEOs of Fortune 500 companies with the leadership and culture that they have at their organizations that I think is transferable to any industry. So I have people who listen to the podcast who aren't even from public safety. A majority is public safety, but just helping share those life lessons from 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 years of experience. Had Brian Fennessy on from Orange County Fire Authority. He's almost 50 years in there. Just the wisdom that someone learns from that, and just the resilience is quite remarkable, especially for all the things that first responders see on a daily basis. And it's very high stress job because you're constantly under the public eye. It's, if you have 99 calls where you execute it perfectly, but that 100th one where it's slightly off is all that's going to get picked up. So just trying to do my piece to be able to shed light on the great work that's being done and all the things that we can learn from that, I think is extremely powerful, rather than just being a person to sit there and complain about why are things the way things are. Why do I not take that same energy and try and change some of the things the way I feel like would benefit more people.
Was this your first podcast ever, or is this like a
Yeah,
totally
I've
new
been
experience out of your
yes,
comfort zone?
it was brand new. I'm a podcast nerd. I love listening to a whole bunch of other people's podcasts, and I just like, a podcast is free. It's almost like the way of consuming a book or a movie. It's I listen to it while I'm cooking or while driving. It's like the best thing ever to just keep learning from other people. And I was like, man, like I feel like I could potentially do this, and maybe only 5 people would listen to it. I don't care. Like if anything, the only thing I cared about was after I finished talking with the chief, just the smile and the connection was built through that. I wouldn't even care if no one listened to the podcast. Just seeing and the chief just saying how they felt after just giving them a platform to share their story unfiltered was the win in my book. I couldn't care if anybody listened or not.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, a lot of people in those, especially in those positions, the higher rank positions, they kind of in an isolated, lonely position, right? And they don't have a chance to share very often. So providing that platform is very important to a lot of those people. So kudos to you.
I think one of the you hit on a good thing there. Actually, one of the coolest things that has happened from that is a lot of time in your organization, once you're the chief, can't really go up anymore to find, you have to kind of spread your wings a little bit and try and meet with chiefs from other departments or other organizations or events that are similar. And the cool thing is that some chiefs will listen to an episode and connect with someone or ask me to make an introduction to a chief was on, because like I really loved this thing they were doing during their hiring process and I want to ask them about that. So some of the connections that have been built from listeners to guests has been a really cool thing that I hadn't really thought of when starting. It's just been a byproduct it's been really cool to see.
Awesome. The connector. Love it. So looking at the podcast as a person who's not in the fire service, what kind of lessons have you learned personally from these individuals that you've interviewed over the last number of episodes? What is there anything that kind of sticks out with you? Is like, wow, I'm taking that into my life. And then on the second part of that question is, any surprises that you didn't know about public safety until you started the podcast?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a couple of the ones like your health is your wealth. That's a really big one to see, because especially like when you look at the career in the fire service or public safety, it's a massive time commitment. I mean, you're not sleeping as well. I mean, firefighter, you can get called up in the middle of the night. If you're an officer, maybe it's trouble sleeping. That's not the best for eating or working out schedule. You could have every excuse imaginable, but they choose not to have the excuse. They choose to persevere. They choose to serve their communities and answer the calling to be able to go in and serve the community for, honestly, like for the work they do and the altruistic behavior that's exhibited, not the best pay or benefits either. And I think it's just been a constant reminder to me, as I've always embraced it in sports, but just there's no such thing as an excuse. And I think public safety is the gold star example of that I will do everything in my power to help this person, even if it means me sacrificing myself when I have a family at home. Just helped me get a lot more in touch with empathy. And just when you realize that the adrenaline rush that you get is serving someone on their worst day, when they just lost all of their belongings, their home, they just lost a loved one, and the compassion and care that goes into that. When a lot of the time, when part of the time you're dealing with people in society who aren't friendly, who are maybe trying to hurt you. Those are just a couple of the really big ones that I've taken that just really impacted me.
Any surprises kind of interviewing these people that you're like, wow, I was not expecting this culture or this issue or challenge to be so prevalent in public safety?
I guess I was surprised because before, like 20 years ago, you'd known that public safety positions were kind of, especially in the fire service, were like a Willy Wonka ticket. Like you couldn't almost get one, and now it's the opposite. And
like that Willy Wonka ticket. Yep.
yeah, exactly. But now today it's like the recruit class is a little smaller, applicants aren't as high. And when I get in and talk with chief, because I saw it before I was in the career of public safety, working these men and women each day, is my depiction of what I thought it wasn't what was being portrayed. So just realizing that, and I tell this to people, and the people who aren't in it don't understand. It's like you are a father, you're a mother, you're a coach, you're a brother, you're a sister. You're just like every other human being with a heart, who just wants to do the best at the job at hand. And just the lifelong learner is what I've been really loving to see, especially with chiefs who've been on there. Just the commitment to their craft and doing their admin work on the weekends or early in the mornings or late at night. So when they're there, they're present with their people, they're helping guide them, they're visiting their stations, it is their lifestyle. And a lot of time I talk with chiefs, and it was never even in their plans to be a chief. They wanted to ride the red truck, not be budget planning and getting into politics. And everybody's still wants to be the firefighter, the police officer. Never, some of the best leaders I've talked to are like, I didn't even want to be chief. It's one of those things that just happened.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a lot of people don't even consider that when they first join as a recruit, that one day I could be a fire chief, right? That's not even on the radar, right? So I'm assuming by your passion for learning, you must have some pretty good books that you would recommend. Is there a book that's like hands down is the best book out there for the listener today?
Oh, I finished reading the one by Charlie Munger. It was one of my favorite ones. I don't know why one of my favorite books is escaping my name right now. I go through
Charlie
books
Munger?
like crazy.
Munger?
Yeah, it's Poor Charlie's Almanac. He was Warren Buffett's business partner through Berkshire Hathaway in investing, and just the principles he talks about of humility, the long-term time horizon on things, the concept of inversion. So like humans are really prone to finding problems with everything. Like if you see something, you want to pick it apart, find what's wrong with it. Like, okay, if that's what we're tended towards as humans, no matter what situation is, find the problem in everything, but then flip it. So it's like, okay, if I don't want that to happen, I know what to do. Like one of the perfect examples he used in the book is like, if I was working on an aircraft and I wanted to make sure that my plane did not land at the destination I would want it to go to, I'd make sure it didn't have enough fuel. I'd make sure that the compasses didn't work. But then you flip it on its head. So like you make sure all the compasses work. You make sure that there's enough fuel in the plane. So just a different way of thinking, a different mindset around those things was really impactful for me. So it was along the concept of investing, but it's really applicable to any area of life of how you spend your time, how you think about things. So I'm really biased towards that. And there's the whole nother shelf at home that I always have a book on my nightstand. And Dave Robertson, one of your previous guests, he asked me the same thing: is what do you keep on your nightstand?
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Leaders are readers. 100%.
Yes.
Yeah. So flash forwarding, you got a new book coming out, book number 4. Mm-hmm. And I believe the concept of this book is all the nuggets and the wisdom and gold from your podcast, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how that was that something you had early stage thought, or is that something that just kind of morphed out of the podcast success?
It's funny. A couple months into the podcast, I thought it would be cool to like have all the chiefs who'd been a guest to do a little segment in the book, like each have their own page and leave their message. And I was like, that could work. I was like, it's not that it's impossible. It'd be a lot of work to get everybody to get their piece done with everything else that has going on. And I was like, well, okay, what's an easy way to do this? Well, we had all these 30-minute to hour-long conversations with, I think I did 70 recordings within the first 10 months, 11 months. And I would go back, and because I was the one who edited it, I'd do everything for it, and I'd re-listen. And I was like, wow, that's a great nugget. So I would take my own notes through the episodes. So I had notes on all the 70 episodes, and I was go back through and reading some, and I was like, wow, these are great. And some of my favorite books have just been, I love reading autobiographies and biographies. It's like the ultimate cliff notes of someone who's 80 years old just wrote a book about their whole life experiences and slim it down to 200 pages. It's amazing. And when I talk to a lot of chiefs, is everyone is, like you said, leaders are readers. The continuous growth and improvement. And a lot of these chiefs love seeing what each other are doing. So I was like, okay, what better way to kind of help simplify the wisdom I have? So even like a podcast is great, but how do I shrink it down even more into its just basic element? And I went through and listened and transcribed all those 70 episodes, and it came out to be 153 maxims. So I did not set out for a specific number. 153 just happened after going through them. So the book is called Resilience Beyond Duty, 153 Life Lessons Fire and Police Chiefs Learn the Hard Way so you don't have to. And I made it super digestible, because a lot of firefighters and police officers I talked about is, if there's a book, there better be pictures in it, or it better be short. I didn't put pictures in it because I'm not a good illustrator. But it's each page is like one maxim. So there's 153 maxims, anywhere from like 1 to 6 lines, and you can just kind of flip through it. And I had a couple of chiefs endorse it, and I think Dennis Rubin said it best, the fire chief at Kansas City, Kansas Fire, was formerly Atlanta and DC. He was like, these would be great topics of discussion, like the kitchen table, for example. Yeah. And then all proceeds from the book, so 100% of them I'm donating back to public safety departments at the end of the year. So if it's a volunteer fire department, or I don't know how I'm going to distribute it yet, but it's all going back into public safety. So there's really no excuse not to buy the book, because one, you learn from the wisdom of some of the world's most knowledgeable public safety professionals, and then your funds go back in to help other first responders. So just really wanted, like I said, again, just trying to make a difference and add to the body of knowledge that already exists in the area. And I'm not claiming to be a subject matter expert by any chance. I'm just sharing information from the subject matter experts. And I thought when you talk about imposter syndrome, I thought when I started, a lot of chiefs would be like, oh, who's this guy coming in? He wasn't in public safety. And I actually found it to be quite opposite, with them caring about my opinion as someone who didn't come from that field and just fresh eyes looking at something. And it's been well received so far. So like you said, just being a connector, just sharing the wisdom of others. It's been an amazing process.
Connector and a curator. Those are the two things that keep popping in my mind now. That's who you are now. The connector and the curator. Love it. So what would be the biggest message that you would want to leave our listeners with? Like, what is something that's just like really resonate with you? And you're like, if I don't leave this with the listener right now, I'm going to feel a little guilty about not sharing it. What would that be?
No, that's a really good question. When I think about how fast life has started going for me, and I always ask people older than me, how do I slow it down? And like, it just goes faster. I think, especially with what I'm seeing right now with my dad, who has stage 4 cancer, just in being paralyzed, is life is so short. And he is in his late 50s. And it's just one of those things, you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. So stop putting the thing off that you want to do. And for me, I always look at it like, okay, let's look at the 80-year-old Alec. If I was in that same position, what would I regret doing? What would I regret not doing? Because when I picture myself in that stage, it's not going to matter the money you have or the property you own. It's what are the stories that I had to tell at that point in time, the memories that I had. And I'm like, okay, like when I'm here right now, what are the memories I can make, the stories I can have, the impact that I could have on others that 80-year-old Alec would be proud of. So I guess to sum it up is look at the 80-year-old version of yourself and do things to make that person proud in a way.
Love it. So saying that, what's on Alec's kind of next thing to do? What's that thing that you haven't done yet that you want to do and that you're going to do?
I think I'm really excited to see where this podcast keeps going in public safety. I absolutely love what I do. I think one thing that I've found, especially through sports, and I've been very fortunate at Ready Rebound, I get to travel around the country, meet with different departments and chiefs, a lot of the ones who I've had on the podcast. And through those travels, I just gained so much perspective. I haven't done too much travel abroad, so I really just love learning about new people and new cultures. So I think for me, it's I love what I do, but it's also like I love that there's so much out there that I need to learn. So I think I would like to maybe take a couple of trips, maybe to experience a different culture. I don't know what that is yet. And I know that taking the trip is also time that I can't be doing this. So there is a real like pull. He's like, oh, go do that. I can't do this. I would definitely like to get a little more experience from different cultures, especially over in, I think, Europe.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. So good. You sound like an extremely busy guy, and luckily you have youth to your advantage. But there must be some strategies that you have in place for your own wellness, for your own balance in life. I call it harmony, where we give and take. Some days is going to be more, some days is going to be less. Do you have any strategies in place, or are you just going full tilt?
I do. I've gone full tilt a couple of times and I've burned myself out, which is not a fun feeling. So I still go full tilt, but I kind of start to feel when I'm kind of pushing the line and you pull back a little bit. I would say for me, I'm in an interesting phase. I'm 25 right now, and I've always said when you do have a significant other, when you do have kids, it's how do I work as much now, do what I want now? So when you do have those things, you don't have to miss those key moments. And that's another thing I've learned from fire chiefs and police chiefs is I was so focused on my career and doing these things that I missed some key moments in my kids' lives or families' lives that I can't go revisit. Then the caveat of that is I wouldn't be where I am today, maybe if I wouldn't have done some of those things. So it's how do I keep pushing myself now. So maybe when I have kids one day, I don't have to miss some of those moments in a way, kind of setting yourself up better for the future. Just again, constantly preparing is, I think, the main message there. But one huge thing for me is like my calendar. I'm a huge fan of, I put something there and it's going to happen there. Now, something extraneous comes up that's an emergency or something super cool happens. Okay, I can move that to here, but it's still going to get done. So I think it's what you measure gets managed. So just blocking off time, being hypercritical of my time. And a lot of my Saturdays and Sundays, if you looked at my calendar, it's wide open on both those days. Monday through Friday, it's insane from wake up, workout, work. It's the same thing, repeat. Yep. But just because that time is open on the weekends doesn't mean it's time for other people. It kind of gives me time to do creative work, read, and continue my learning, because sometimes during the hustle and bustle, it's a little hard sometimes to squeeze everything in. So I would just say, be very conscious of your time and how you're spending it, and guard your time
like that,
because that is finite and it's fleeting.
Yeah, you got to protect that space, right? Because if you don't, somebody's either going to book it for you, or something's just going to, you can doom scroll on your phone instead, right? So,
which I'm not perfect. It happens sometimes, and you put it down. You're like, oh man, I should not have done that.
100%. So tell us a little bit about Ready Rebound. We haven't really dived into what that service is. So tell our listener today a little bit about what Ready Rebound is.
Yeah, it's pretty much expedited healthcare for first responders. So we've seen this when someone gets injured, whether it's on duty or off duty, there might be 6 to 8 weeks of PT before you go see your primary care physician, before you have to go see a specialist to get an MRI, to see a specialist again. And it's 3 months down the line before you figure out what's actually wrong with you, if you need surgery. When that's not the right way to do things. That's not what happens in pro sports. So our whole philosophy is, how do you treat a first responder, their family members, retirees, anyone associated with that firefighter or police officer, like a professional athlete, so that when you get injured, how you see an orthopedic specialist within 24 to 48 hours of giving us a call, getting MRI or imaging done within 72 hours. And if surgery is needed, have it done within the next week or two. But if it's not, you can be more aggressive in PT. So it's just, how do you get to a definitive diagnosis? Because when you're injured, all you can think about is, how do I get better? You think about what's wrong with me. You don't want to go to Google or WebMD and try and start Googling your symptoms and figure out what's wrong with you. That just creates a whole different level of stress. So it's, how do I have someone who understands me, is going to hold my hand through that process? And that's exactly what we do, is hold your hand through the entire process of working with your department, working with your chief, with your HR, your workers' comp, who gets a really bad name sometimes, not always for the best reasons, but holding your hand through the entire process. So all you have to do is show up to your appointments and work on getting better. And then we're taking care of all the stuff on the back end for you. So it's just been really helpful. And coming from that background in sports, I find it so fulfilling to hear the success stories of a firefighter or one of their kids getting hurt on a Saturday playing soccer and giving us a call, and we get them an appointment on a Monday. And I know, when I'm not that phase yet, but when I empathize with parents, a lot of them say they'd give their left arm so their kid wouldn't be in pain. It's so when you can help not only injured first responder, but their families too, it's just such fulfilling work. And especially in a system that has not always been people first, or how people should be treated.
100%. So I notice quite often on social media, you're posting such and such department joined Ready Rebound. Is that like a membership, or how do they join Ready Rebound?
Yeah, it's like a subscription model. So yeah, so they kind of choose like, hey, we want this for our members. Obviously go through the procurement process, get them signed up, and then we can just serve their family members, their retirees, their staff, whether it's on duty or off duty. If it's insurance, we go through their workers' comp insurance. If it's off duty, use their major medical, their spouse's insurance, TRICARE if they're a vet. And if you're interested in learning more, you can go to www.readyrebound.com. Fill out there to look at more information or get connected, or you can reach out to me myself and I can help point you in the right direction. Alec Wons on LinkedIn is an easy place to find me, where I'm active.
100% you are. Cool. So how can people, learn more about you? So LinkedIn, how about your podcast? Where can people find your podcast and maybe your books, and maybe when the release of your new books out?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest spot for all of that. I'll post on there every day. A lot of the stuff is just is podcast learning, knowledge, take other matter from other subject matter experts that's been gathered. Through there, you can be able to visit. I have a link in there to the podcast, but the podcast is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's the Chief Exchange. Super easy. But LinkedIn is the best way to be able to communicate with me too. So if you want to talk, connect, be a guest, if I can help you in any way, or connect you with someone else, as you said, being a connector, if there's someone in my network who you want to know, just reach out and let me know. I'm more than happy to be able to help out. But LinkedIn is the best spot to do that.
Awesome. And how about your books on Amazon, or where do we find those?
Yeah.
Amazon?
Books are on Amazon. Yep. Books are on Amazon. And then, that new one coming out, it's probably going to be in March of 2025. Yeah. So a couple months here is when that will be out, in this Resilience Beyond Duty. It'll be on Amazon. I'll be posting about it on LinkedIn. You won't be able to miss it on there.
Awesome. As we wrap up, this is kind of a question I ask a lot of my guests, is what does Alec need more of in his life to be even that much, more thriving in your own personal life?
Ooh, this is a good question. I think just more. I don't think there's ever this thing as too much experience and learning. I think it's just, how do I cast as wide as possible just to keep learning from other people. Like, I would look at every interaction with a human being or a situation as something I can learn from. Either it's as I'm walking past a homeless person on the street and they strike up a conversation. It's like, okay, what can I learn from this person? Or how can I help make this person's day better? Maybe a little more of a social life would be good too. That's good sometimes.
I hear you. Yeah, well, I picked up, I don't know, you said at least 3 or 4 times the word human, and that really resonates with me. I really truly think we need to humanize the public safety so much more than we have in the past, right? So there's so many things we can do there to bring back that attitude of humans first, right? So.
Well, especially with how rapidly technology is advancing, it's like everything is AI. You're getting these robot calls, and it's like, man, how do you get back to connecting with humans and people? That just energizes me more than anything else. So it's almost like a back to the basics. Yes, all this other stuff is cool, but I'd prefer not to put on a VR set and be in my own world when I have a world with actual people out there who you can connect with.
Strange, eh? Yeah.
You think?
Well, Alec, it's been an honor, and I'm so glad we connected on LinkedIn, of all places, of course, and got a chance to connect. And I've listened to a couple of your podcast episodes as well and subscribed. So be sure to check out the Chief Exchange. And I just want to welcome you to the first responder world, and thanks for your service, being somebody who's not an active public safety person, but is a huge ambassador for this organization across North America. So thank you from our listeners today as well.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on your show. I really love the work that you're doing, and people who you're having on your show to be able to help spread the word as well. I love following your work too.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed this great episode with Alec Wons. Until next time, stay well. All right, that's a wrap.
All right, that was so fun.
Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Helmet. We hope that this podcast has provided you with valuable insights into the world of firefighters' health and wellness. Remember, caring for your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is crucial to achieving optimal performance. Join us next time on Beneath the Helmet for more inspiring conversations. Until then, stay well.